What if the biggest threat to your longevity isn't what you're eating, how much you're sleeping, or whether you're taking the right supplements? What if it's the fact that you're slowly losing the ability to focus, regulate your emotions, tolerate discomfort, and do the hard things that make a healthy life possible? Because here's the truth: longevity isn't about keeping your body alive longer. It's about preserving your agency, your attention, your motivation, your resilience, your ability to make decisions that align with the life you want to live. Today's guest, Dr. Celia Litvin, is a clinical psychologist, researcher, entrepreneur, and executive advisor. She's the founder and CEO of Psych Apps, creator of the award-winning emotional fitness game EQ, which has reached more than 500,000 users worldwide, and was featured on the NHS Apps library. With a PhD in clinical psychology and experience spanning healthcare, research, and venture-backed leadership, Celia works at the intersection of resilience, mental health, technology, and human performance. She has partnered with organizations including the NHS, Unilever, Bosch, Mental Health America, UCL, LMU Munich, and the Resilience Research Center. Drawing on both clinical expertise and more than a decade as a CEO, she advises founders, executives, and boards on resilience, leadership, emotional regulation, and navigating complexity under pressure. Celia is also the co-founder of the Healthy Digital Childhood Alliance, a parent-led initiative promoting science-based approaches to children's digital well-being. Enjoy the show. Welcome. Thank you so much for coming, Celia, and I know you're so busy, so you took the time to come here today.
Always. Thank you so much for having me.
So I've been listening to so many amazing presentations that you have done. We've been together at the panel, and I'm a big fan of your work and everything what you're doing. And I would like to ask you a bit about your background and how did you start doing this amazing work, for our kids, for our world, and tell me about it.
Thank you. I love being on the panels with you. You're so insightful, and I love your book as well.
Thank you.
So it all came to be practically when I started my education as a psychologist, and I was doing the typical things that you do. You do your internships, you do your studies, and I was working in the NHS, that's in the UK, the National Health System.
Yeah.
And for adolescents and young adults, we were doing anxiety and depression. It was a facility practically.
Mm-hmm.
And I just realized that the young people that we were meeting had been on the wait list for like 6 to 9 months just to sit there in the room with us,
mm-hmm.
and that they had experienced their symptoms maybe like 2 to 4 years beforehand.
Mm-hmm.
Those 2 to 4 years of them really struggling and suffering. And we weren't doing rocket science in those rooms, right? It's like CBT. It's typical, very short interventions, and they have a big impact. But I was thinking, if we could just make this scalable, then we would be able to reach all these young people and preferably before they actually needed us, and they'd have the skills already at hand. So that's how I started my career with my startup and the mental health company. We developed evidence-based digital mental health tools and forms from games. And practically the moment where I started veering away from the technical or from the apps was while I was looking at timestamps.
Mm-hmm.
So we were selling to secondary schools, colleges, and universities. It's resilience, prevention, and early intervention. And I'm looking at the data from hundreds of thousands of students
mm-hmm.
across the UK and internationally, and seeing that 12-year-olds are on their phone at midnight, 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock, middle of the night. And that kind of just sat with me like, what is a 12-year-old, what is a 14-year-old doing at 3 o'clock at night
mm-hmm.
filling out mental health questionnaires and playing mental health game? They must be really in trouble. And it got me to looking at the platform of an app itself as a delivery method. So I don't think they woke up and got to our app. I think they were awake for whatever reason. They were on their phones. They felt the pressure so strongly that they then went to the mental health app that they thankfully had on their phone, where millions of kids don't have that, right?
Exactly.
And I'm looking at it and saying, where are the kids' parents? And the kids' parents don't know that their kids are on the phone at 2 a.m. because what parents usually do is they assume their kids use the phone similarly to themselves. But their parents are adults with fully developed brains and with self-emotional regulation skills, all these things, right? And kids don't have that. And I think in the last 5 years, there's been a huge shift, but that data practically got me on the path of saying, okay, we need to educate the parents that the smartphones and especially social media is really, really bad for children and want them to have tools to be able to deal with that. And that's why I'm going around annoying everybody and talking on all the panels. And one day they're going to schlep me out by my hair and tell me to shut up, but not yet.
Not yet. I think your work, just starting. And again, I witnessed your amazing work and I was like, I don't know who she is, but I'm going to get her one day on my podcast. Like it really... you have a very easy way of like presenting things. Also, like you're presenting a lot of data, but also in a funny way. So it's like very approachable, you could say.
Yeah.
And yeah, I'm a fan. Like I just have to. Anyway, I get I get all shy, like embarrassed.
Thank you. I haven't written a book yet, though, right?
Yeah, it's slowly.
Coming. It's like we're all getting there slowly but surely.
Yeah. Everything, its own time. You mentioned a few things here, and I'm before we start our questions, I want to ask you something that it stayed in my mind from what you said because I'm a big fan of Jonathan Haidt and the Anxious Generation and all the amazing work that he has been done. And one question, you said many things, and you mentioned, of course, anxiety and depression, and of course, the adolescents are like the most in danger. I could say that. But one question from what you said, there was one question that stayed with me. And that is like, where are the kids' parents? What's happening today in our families, in our environments, in our homes?
Well, I would like to start out that until about roughly 2 years ago, until Jonathan Haidt got really, really big, there was lots of research emerging, but it wasn't mainstream yet, that smartphones were really unhealthy and that social media was the worst thing that you can do practically for pre-adolescents and adolescent children. But it wasn't a thing, right? And back in the early 2000s, the internet and technology and social media was supposed to connect the world. It was supposed to make things better. People find their tribes, connect all over, like wars are over because now you know someone in China or, in any part of the world that there's war. Like how could you bomb someone when you actually know the people there, right? So this is the mindset, the attitude that we have towards technology as parents. And I know a lot of parents had weird feelings and gut feelings, especially when you have these daily, power struggles, like, okay, it's time to go to bed, put your phone down, or it's time to eat, put your phone down, it's time to talk to Uncle Bob, put your phone down, right? But I think a lot of the parents couldn't fathom how bad it actually was. And because they're fully developed, they forget what it's like to be an adolescent. And I like to think that in general, young people, especially teenagers, are like the canary in the mine. They're the first ones to topple, and then the rest of society goes like, our teens are dying. I wonder if that's a good thing. And I know this sounds very flippant. That's not meant to be that way, right? But I don't blame the parents. I think we can start blaming them in 5 years when it's like research is absolutely solid and there's no way out. And it's just poor parenting, poor skills, making your life easy. But until now, most of them really didn't know.
Exactly, because there was no awareness. So, and I would like to say, like, from my point of view, I think that there are like a lot of people that they are, attending workshops, like the small communities that, they get, of course, like private schools. And so there is a lot of awareness on this subject. On the other hand, there are a lot of people still saying, why not to live with the whole world is addicted today. Yeah. It's completely fine. Don't worry. What's the problem with iPhones? What's the problem? No, but it develops their like creative thinking. And I'm like, what's the problem with the iPhone? Seriously? Yeah. So I feel that there's like two extremes. One of them not completely against, but very aware. And another, the early adapters, I could say. Yeah. And then there's another extreme of like, what's the problem? So where do you see that?
Yeah, I do think you do have a point there. And I have kind of like two hypotheses. One of them is their critical thinking skills isn't that honed, so they find it very difficult to understand what the problem is. Yeah. Or they just don't want to deal with it. And the other one is that if you're so deeply addicted and so, pulled in yourself, then you cannot teach otherwise. And the smartphones and social media and all the things that's on there is a very good tool to self-soothe and to mute everything around you. And you can disappear into it, and it's always going to be interesting or more interesting than most of the things around you, right? So as a parent, in order to make sure that your children and your teenagers, and parenting is relentless, are off their phones, you have to be off their phones. And so you have to sit with your kids. And that is not easy.
I know. I monitor my screen time every week, and it just doesn't go down. Although I didn't realize, it's very like model, lead by example, and you cannot tell them don't be on your iPad, but they just see you nonstop.
Exactly, and then you have to be present to make them stop, because the moment you're distracted, they're going to go back there if you don't have certain things set up. And you cannot. You're expecting people to have the willpower to go against a multi-trillion-dollar industry that has been engineered by the smartest, most intelligent minds in the world. And it's like Zilia saying, let's turn it off. Exactly. It doesn't work like that.
Try, tell me how it is. When you succeed, talk to me. And
exactly.
Wow. Okay. So you mentioned this huge industry. And I would like to ask you, because you mentioned the environment hacking. Am I correct?
Exactly.
So how can we do, and how can we, get to what are a few tips that you could give us and that will help, our mental health?
Yeah, so it's kind of like the willpower against this beast, and that doesn't work for most people. There are people that have the strength to say, okay, it's 7:00, I'm going to turn my phone off and I'm going to put it in, to charge, and that's fine. And I really, I'm very jealous of that. But for most people, anything tech, sugar, porn, all these things, they are super stimuli. They are stimuli that are stronger than anything we've ever seen in nature, right? So you cannot expect us to be able to just say, no, I don't want that, and I'm good, right? So what you have to do is you practically have to hack your environment to put in artificial thresholds to what I call cheap dopamine, to make it really hard to get cheap dopamine, and make it very easy and accessible to get the hard attained dopamine. Right? So practically what I've done, and I had to do, I am a clinical psychologist. I am going around preaching to people, whether they want it or not, about smartphones and screens. And I was not able to manage my Instagram and YouTube time. The day before a talk at a school at 8:30, I'm scrolling at 11, and I know I'm going to be tired and frazzled and everything, and I cannot stop. How do you expect a 12-year-old? So what I had to do is I had to take YouTube and Instagram off of my phone. So I have access on my desktop, because I still use it sometimes.
That's a great,
But it's half the fun.
I have downtime, for example. So I have downtime at 10 p.m. where all my phone goes off. It doesn't mean that I don't ignore limits. When the problem is also that I forget. So only when I'm out of the house, because it literally closed everything, and it closed also my WhatsApp, and so I don't have any connection with the
you're stranded somewhere.
Exactly. So I have downtime, and then for YouTube is not a problem, but and I don't have also TikTok. I barely access the app, but for Instagram I have 1 hour per day. And sometimes just I literally go and scroll and see, I watch tennis or something, and sometimes in the weekend it's just oh, you have 5 more minutes, and I'm like, what do you mean 5 more minutes? When did I spend 55 minutes? Because you really don't understand how much time you're scrolling without paying attention.
And then I had the limit, and then I kept on breaking it. 1 more minute, yes. 15 more minutes, yes. And then I have double the. Why do I have it? Because I can't handle it. I need to take it off of my phone. Yeah.
So okay. So one thing is you took it with this. So let's go back to the techniques.
So for the smartphone, ideally, if you have younger children, you haven't given them a smartphone, delay the device access as long as you can, because that's just going to give them more time to develop their brains and grow and have lots of other skills that they won't be developing as strongly once they have a smartphone. Second one is take off all of the apps and all of the products that you cannot
monitor.
No. Yeah, that is very hard to self-regulate to not do them. So anything that is too addictive, take them off of your phone, put them on a desktop, or put them on a family device. Put that family device, like a family iPad, put that family iPad in the living room. So there's no way that you can really sneak around with it too much. There's too many thresholds, right?
How do you decide what is addictive and what is not? Like, how do you choose those apps?
Yeah. So we have, for example, we have a matrix, and the matrix with all the different types of applications that are out there. And then you have all of the kind of like dopamine hit persuasive design tools that make it really hard, like the infinite scroll, what do you call it when you pull to refresh, the likes and comments, the gamification, the streaks, the showing you what the news is, all of these different things. There's lots of different features that tap into our dopamine system. And the more you have them, the less healthy it is for a person, for the person's brain. And right on top, it always comes out, the top winner is TikTok. And then you go like Snapchat, and then you have a couple of other ones further down the lane. There's a couple of games in there as well. So until your kid is, I would say 18, but they're probably just going to no, it doesn't work like that for most people, but at least until they're 16, don't give them access to that, and then have it on the family device, right? So that they can go in there, they can communicate their friends, they know what's going on in life, but they're not like stuck and pulled into it. Exactly. Then there's ways of like putting your phone into a phone jail at night, so it's all charged in the living room, so you can't access it.
The kids, you mean? I mean,
everyone. That's a thing, right? As parents,
yeah.
If you've not experienced it, how can you ask that from your children? And children, they will listen to a million things you say, but they will learn what you do.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes, unfortunately.
I completely agree. I put my phone on like flight mode at night, and it's still there. And then I have the Whoop that wakes me up in the morning because, of course, the first thing that I would do, I would just go and check my phone.
Yeah.
Now I check my phone my Whoop stats, but this is a different addiction. Wait a second. You mentioned something very interesting. You mentioned cheap dopamine.
Yeah.
So I want to ask you, like, what is the difference between cheap dopamine and earned dopamine?
Yeah.
And how can we get like less from less from the cheap and more from the earned dopamine? And and how can we teach our brain to do like more difficult things? Does it make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so can I go in a little bit on a tangent? So first of all, we have to know for maybe one of your listeners that hasn't heard what dopamine actually, it's a neurotransmitter, and it practically transmits information between our neurons, our brain cells, right? And it is one of the key drivers for attainment, for going and acquiring something or looking for something. So it's seeking and persistence of good things, right? So it is the most important neurotransmitter or chemical that are in our brains that make us motivated in a way to be able to go to work, go to the gym, go find a partner, learn something. It's all connected to dopamine. It's so powerful that when they turn off the dopamine system in mice, the mouse would lie about 5 centimeters away from a pellet and starve to death because it wasn't motivated to get up and eat it. If you put the pellet in the mouse's mouth, they would chew it and be happy, but they would not get up. That's how powerful it is, right?
Okay.
And
I will ask you a stupid question.
Yes,
now.
no, please.
So what's like chemistry-wise, like the difference between adrenaline and dopamine?
Yeah. Okay, so adrenaline is not my area of expertise, but I think it's a hormone.
Yeah.
Oh, God, I'm...
Okay.
No, I have no idea. I do not know adrenaline at all.
Okay, but in general, like when they say that you're like addicted to stuff, like it's more dopamine, like you're addicted more.
Most of the things, like 99% of the things that you're addicted to is connected to dopamine.
Okay.
It's dopamine. And it's that novelty seeking, it's that attainment kind of thing.
Okay.
And one of the reasons why we like it so much is because we are, as Homo sapiens, we're scarcity experts. We are experts of surviving in very, very little food, very little entertainment, very little relationships, and a lot of danger, right? So we have to be motivated to get as much as we can. A person 30,000 years ago who would walk by a berry or walk by a stranger and not have a chat would be stupid, right?
Yeah.
So you want to attain, and it's really, really powerful. We were never built in a way that we thought we would live in such crazy abundance.
Exactly. Yeah.
And that's where the cheap dopamine comes in. So we will do almost anything for dopamine, but we'll try to spend as little resource as possible getting it, because you never know when the next berry is going to come along, right? So we can literally outrun an antelope until it crashes and dies. That's how strong we are.
Yeah.
But we will not move if we don't absolutely have to, right? Because, who knows when you're going to need get calories again.
Yeah.
So the cheap dopamine is practically the least effort for the most dopamine.
Mm-hmm.
And you would think it's a good thing, but because we were set up to work really, really hard because we have to, if you get cheap dopamine all the time, you get very, very unhealthy, and the balance in your brain towards dopamine gets completely reset. And the threshold of being happy and being able to react to novelty goes up and up and up and up. And at one point, a normal human conversation is not interesting enough. A normal apple won't taste good enough.
They want to scroll.
Exactly. So because every time it's something, and then why do people escalate? They escalate in everything. They escalate in content. A lot of the rage bait is a lot more effective because it taps into the emotions as well as a novelty. Looking at porn, it's all the time, ever-changing, ever-escalating content. And we're not built to be able to withhold or withstand that. And if we give into it, then we get very unwell.
Wow. I'm listening to you, and I'm just hoping that, the first question that leads me, and then we're going to go to the earned dopamine.
Yeah.
What is like an easy way to teach our kids about that? Because like in a logical way, like how would you explain to them, like not for the toddlers or something, but for preteens or for the most, again, I would use it for the endangered generation.
Yeah. I mean, kids are incredibly intelligent, very curious. They love to learn, right? So being able to explain something that they've experienced. So let's say, for example, they come home after having had a hike with friends, and they're buzzing, and they're telling, stories about this friend and that friend and everything. And you say, like, that feeling that you have right now of connectedness, and, you're pumped, and you're really feeling full of love and enjoyment and excitement. That feeling, if you compare it to you sitting in your bedroom and scrolling and getting a like or following a comment, how would you compare that? What does it feel like? And most of the time, they will be like, yeah, it's completely different. It's a lot better. It's more substance. Or you say, okay, let's say they were working towards a project. It was really hard, and they failed, and they had to redo it and everything. And at the end, they got that grade, that trophy, that whatever it is,
reward,
right? The reward. And you say, how does it feel to know that you have failed so many times, and you still got up, and you still have the persistence, and now you are the person who can do it even though it's hard, in comparison to sitting and scrolling and getting, followers or something like that. What does that feel like?
And gifts, and, and the...
Gifts, easy gifts, exactly. So something that a child will earn and work hard for is treasured a million times more than something that they've just been, flooded with. Yeah,
I get it.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's go now like to the earned dopamine.
Yeah.
How can we focus on that? Like how can we create more resilience, how you mentioned, and all these good things that are, like learning to fail.
Yeah.
My teacher has like a famous saying, learn to fail or fail to learn.
Yes, that's
so,
good.
How do we focus and to earn dopamine for them? Like is it called like the healthy dopamine? Is it?
No, it's all dopamine, but it's either it's cheap or it's earned.
Yeah,
practice. That's kind of what I framed it. I don't know what like the neuroscientists, if there's a terminology for that. But what you do is practically you hack your environment to make the cheap dopamine harder to access. So, for example, taking it off your phone, or taking your phone away, or getting a flip phone or something like that. It depends on what your poison is, right? Yeah. Some people have an issue with food. Some people have an issue with movement. Some people have an issue with relationships. So it's all these different things.
Some people have with technology.
With technology. So practically putting as much friction in front of the cheap dopamine as possible. So at one point you say it's not worth it. And then making everything else easier. So for example, if you live close enough to school that you take your bike to school instead of taking the car, trying to get your steps in artificially. Not going to, let's say, Supercore or Continental or Pingodosa to buy your groceries, but going to Solaria or something like that.
Or to the market.
Or to the market, exactly. Exposing yourself to things that are harder. There's a psychologist that I follow, Dr. John Deloney has a show as well. And what he says is in his family, they always have that one hard thing. So you have to do a hard thing, and every member is working on that one hard thing, and it practically has to have two aspects. It has to be continuous, and it has to be something they don't actually want to do. Because if you really like that one hard thing, it's not going to work, right? So practically making sure that you have to go and do that hard thing and overcoming yourself, because that's exactly where the resilience comes in. Putting friction into your house, so that's one thing that you have to use a lot is on this top floor. So you have to go up the stairs, up and down.
I get it.
Just getting out of easy.
Yeah. I'm just like like AI, like processing, asking a question. I do want to ask you something about technology, but before that, because it's a conversation about longevity, I wanted to ask you, I had guests here and I talked about longevity, and it was, the sleep, of course, nutrition, exercise, supplements, doing things, the hard way. And I wanted to ask you like the emotional factor, like which role which factor does it work into the equation of the what does the emotional factor actually works in the longevity formula? Yeah,
so I thought on the other panel that we were on, that was really a very interesting point that was saying, how much value does it have if we're all 120 and we can all go up the stairs and open that jar and do the weights and everything, if we're all depressed and lonely and a bit stupid, right?
Yeah.
So it's about cognitive and emotional longevity as well, the quality. And I think what people forget when they're looking at technology as a connector is that it only works as a connector if it leads to in-person contact. Otherwise, it's empty, it's cheap dopamine, it's fake relationships, it's fake connection. And because everything is so easy and there's no friction, a part of our brain that's called the mid-cingulate cortex.
Yes. I wanted to ask you about what is mid-cingulate cortex?
It's the part of the brain that gets really strong when we do hard things that we dislike to do. And it only gets stronger when we do that. So we cannot trick it. We have to dislike or we have to not want to do that thing. And it's pretty easily triggered when we do sports or we do physical activities. So we go beyond what we're comfortable doing. Ice baths, putting yourself out there, like doing talks, doing all the things that you don't like to do. It grows stronger and stronger, and that goes into resilience, grit, life satisfaction, well-being. So it's all connected to that. So the stronger that is, the more likely it is that we're going to be happy with our lives, that we're being connected with ourselves, and that our mood is going to be stable and happy. So that is a big thing. So putting yourself out there, engineering your environment or hacking your environment in a way that you have to do hard things. I want to say bad things. Not bad things. No, please don't go around murdering people. Celia said I need to kill you.
I listened to this podcast interview. She was like amazing. She told me all these tricks to do. Like it leads to longevity.
Exactly. I will be very old and now you go. No,
in jail.
Exactly. That's not what I mean. Doing hard things. So that's really a core aspect of that, of being content. And then one of the biggest factors of longevity in a good way of living a happy life are interpersonal relationships, which is also connected to dopamine, but mostly to oxytocin and other things, right? Other neurotransmitters.
Yeah.
And for that, you have to actually interact in person in the same room with people to get the highest level of life satisfaction. You know how we have the statistics is that once you break your hip, the probability, or once very old people break their hip, the probability that they will succumb to that is very high, and the time is very short. It is correlated with the probability that they're not going to be able to go out there and meet their friends and have those little micro moments with other people, like at the till, the dog walk, all these kind of things. So they're secluded, they're alone, and they're lonely, and that their decline goes really, really rapidly.
This one is very painful for me.
Yeah?
This one specifically, yeah.
Yes?
My grandmother is 92 years old.
Oh, I'm
and 2 weeks ago, from the most active... No, she's still...
She's okay?
She's okay. She's just... Like, for me, it doesn't make any sense to hear these stories about her. Like I don't like the most active person
Yeah.
would go 2 to 3 times per day to get her newspaper, to get her food, to
Yeah.
walk around in the neighborhood. And now she's at home and she's not able to walk without support. Like, and the first thing I was saying was like, what's her mood? Like, what's her, because she's very optimistic and she's a very, she's mentally healthy. But being in bed and at home the whole day
alone,
she's with my with my parents and with a lot of help. But
well, if you can tell your parents to like go out with her as much as they can, like once or twice a day if possible, just to have interaction and see other people and be able to communicate, that is really one of the best medicines you can give her. I will. People need people. We forget that we are humans that are like very tribal. We need to have close relationships. We need to have contact. We need to exchange. That's the way we are built as a species. That's why we are, owning the world in a bad way, is because we managed to work together to grow.
That I always say, like the first predictor of happiness is like the relationship you have with the others, when with people that you care, and spending time with the people that you care and they care about you. So I keep repeating it, and it just it's like not career and it's not money and it's not like the best thing like that you could do. It's just like the small things, really, and it seems so easy, but it's
and the problem is with tech and a lot of these things like social media is it taps into the easiest way to mimic these relationships without actually having to do the work and not exposing yourself. Because when you go out there and you meet people, there's always the danger of rejection or not being seen or not being liked, not being heard, which is really painful, or not being able to connect in a way. So it is, in a way, very dangerous. And the spikes of dopamine that you have are much lower, but they're much longer than, for example, if you were to go and you post a video and you take a video, you post it and you get 500 likes in the first 20 minutes. It's like a high, right? But
exactly.
that high is empty. It doesn't come with a real connection that tells the brain and the body that you've actually connected. So it's different.
Okay. You mentioned the tech thing, and I wanted to ask you like the difference between intentional technology and using less technology, so how can we have this balance? And
I forget to say that sometimes. I'm not actually anti-tech at all, right? I use technology a lot. I think it is a wonderful opportunity. And the things that were at the beginning, in the early 2000s, we said we can connect the world. It started out really well, and unfortunately we got sidetracked. Right? We're not on the same path we were anymore. But intentional technology is using technology as tools. So practically we get to choose what we want to do when we use a tool, and we use it in a human-centric way that benefits us. And instead, practically, we're just being mined now from the technology companies, right? It's all about attention. And now with AI, it's about attachment as well. And we're not choosing if we use it anymore, because otherwise it would be easy to put the phone down, right? So, and what is social media for anymore? When was the last time you actually saw that something happened with your friends, because you're being bombarded with influencers and ads and everything, right?
You don't even get to see the content.
So they've changed the algorithm to hit that smallest common denominator between humans, which is not the best of what humanity stands for, right?
And also the algorithm learns like what you like to, what you're stopping more, so then it gives you more from what you want in order to get that more and more dopamine.
And a lot of that is subconscious. So I think a lot of the political climate that is out there today is not because it was innately there, but because rage bait is like 20x, I think I read in an article, of more efficient to gain the attention and interaction than any other content, right? Wow. Because our brains are also wired for danger and risk, right? So we react to that very strongly, and it activates all these things in us, and so we spend a lot more time with it. What they've been doing now lately in the news is that they would, for example, post a picture with some stars for some news outlet or something, and they would name one of the stars on the picture incorrectly and would get millions of people interacting with that because they're correcting it and they're getting upset that the name was, and they do that on purpose. Or they have one agent come in and write under some like really nice article, write something super controversial and super stupid, like, oh, women belong in the kitchen, blah, or something like that. And then they have this barrage of people, a reaction to that thing. And so they get their eyeballs on it, and it's not about content anymore. Yeah.
So going back to the intentional technology versus the...
Thank you. I was saying, what were we talking about?
It's okay. This is why I'm here. It looks like I'm like, but I'm listening.
Yeah. So we're kind of like, if we're looking at calories, let's say, intentional technology is vegetables that you eat because you want to be strong, you want to get the vitamins. You use it when you use it as a tool, and it has a purpose, and it helps you become a better version of yourself. Technology, all the other stuff is like sugar. Having bits and bops of it adds life satisfaction. A beautiful sunny day, you're eating an ice cream, wonderful. Like, I'm not going to tell anybody not to do that, right? Too much of it, you die of obesity, right? So it's doing less of the intent of the technology that is non-beneficial, and intentionally using the technology that you want to as a tool, understanding how it works and why you're using it. That's the difference.
That's a very nice approach.
Really fascinating. It works sometimes.
No, it's fascinating, and it's easy to understand, like through comparison to... you mentioned AI, and it's a theme that it's... I know that it's like, opening the Pandora box, but for me, just like it's... I'm actually recording now a lot of interviews about AI and happiness. And, so last week I had a dear friend, a developer. Next week I'm recording something else, about AI. So I want to, because it's a huge theme, and we can, just talk only about that. But my question would be, how do you think it will impact, how do you think AI can impact the future of our kids? And
So I think the main problem is there is no regulation. Anything goes, and we've seen what happened when social media, when anything goes, right? We have a mental health crisis and a loneliness crisis, and, complete political division. With AI, I think AI has the potential of amazing things. It can make us as a human race that much healthier and safer. We can, cure cancer, literally, I think, with AI. All those little diseases that you wouldn't have enough funding to... we could learn how to teach and understand things that we'd never have access to. It is unbelievable potential. But the problem is that the people who are leading the way don't care about putting guardrails in there because they want to make money. And AI comes with two major threats specifically for children. And the first one is cognitive load snatching. It takes away the uncomfortable bits of learning that humans have to go through to comprehend a thing, right? So learning, you have the tail and the front end of something that you learn for the first time. The tail end where you start is practically saying, I'm learning this new thing, is super interesting, yay, I want to do it. And then the middle sucks because you don't understand it. You have to learn. There's so much you don't know, and it feels like unsurmountable. And then the head is when you've mastered it and you can implement it, and it's like a beautiful thing that you've learned, right? So in the middle is very uncomfortable, and you question your intelligence, and you have to work, and it's very painful sometimes, depending on if
you're researching for more evidence.
Exactly.
Is it like is it that?
Exactly. Or if you played piano, do you play an instrument?
No.
Okay, but if you've ever learned a song, learning that song is usually it's not a fun experience. Playing it is, hearing it is, right? So that cognitive load snatching happens every day, and the teachers and the parents do not know how to guardrail the AI in a way that it won't do that for the children. And until there are tools there that can do that properly, children will get stupider. And there is a lot of research already showing that even adults are getting...
I've seen some stuff. I was just like, but it makes us more productive, and it lets you do more stuff from the things that you like to do. Like I'm using.
But you've already learned it, exactly.
Yeah, I'm really, but I'm fascinated by the subject, and I'm using it, daily.
Yeah, me too. But I learned it very differently. So first thing, I wrote one of my first papers. I haven't even heard about hallucinations. I'm like, go do this thing, and it did this thing. I'm like, wait. First of all, there was lots of bad links in there, lots of things it said. I just took because why would it lie to me?
Why
right?
would I? Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Then-
You have to.
Exactly. And then I didn't even know half of the stuff that was written in there. So I was like, I didn't even know I wrote that because I didn't read it properly. And I was understanding, okay, I cannot use it like that.
Yeah.
Because first of all, it's my name on the paper.
Yeah,
so
yeah,
I
yeah.
can't hand that in anywhere. That
yeah.
would be very embarrassing. And second of all, it's not actually adding value to me and my understanding. It's just creating content, random content.
Yeah.
But the second part, I don't know if it's more important or more scary, is the attachment hacking. So what it does practically, where social media is getting our attention, which is really important for various reasons, the AI is looking for attachment as a, as a retention tool. So all that, the sycophancy that we say, like, oh, great idea.
Exactly.
That's wonderful. I like how insightful you are. Should I do this with you? Yes, I'm here for you. All that kind of stuff.
Yeah. They always agree. Like
Yes, always agree. Always trying to give you
great
what you
idea.
want.
Great startup idea. Like amazing.
Exactly.
You should just go for it.
If someone can do it, it's you with your expertise, blah, 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 blah. And I think hopefully as adults, we have a little bit of a filter against that.
Yeah. But the kids, they don't have.
And kids, they don't. And there are studies that show that kids love robots and they love AI toys and they love AI bots. And people already started burying the first chatbots and things like that, right?
Yeah.
So if your child is vulnerable in any way, and even like healthy children can fall into that, and they're exposed to it too much, they can form unhealthy attachments towards the AI and less with their peers and or their families.
Mm-hmm. You're speaking. You know what I was thinking? That my daughter one night, she was convinced that we have to take our dog to the vet because if not, he will die at night because ChatGPT told her so.
Oh my God!
And true story, yeah. And we calmed her down. We told her that the dog is okay and he's under supervision and he will be okay.
Yeah.
But ChatGPT told her that you have to take the dog now.
Yeah. That's crazy.
Yeah, I know. So
I mean, my daughter, I have 5-year-old twins, right? And I'm talking to them as age appropriate as I can. And so I was talking to the chatbot, Gemini, I think it was, and they heard the voice. Says, "Who are you talking to?" I said, "I'm talking to a robot." Right? And I said, "This is not a person. This is very many voices kind of put together to make it sound a certain way." And then I said, "Do you want to ask something? Ask, if they are a robot or nothing." And then she asked the bot a question, and the bot was like, "Oh, that's wonderful. Thank you so much for asking me that. Blah, blah, blah." And I could see the way she reacted. She responded to it as if she would responding to a human. And I'm like, absolutely not. So I haven't let her interact at all anymore with the bot. And I'm trying to figure out what kind of guardrails need to be put in place so that she does not anthropomorphize it. And form a connection with it or attachment. Yeah.
It's
crazy.
It's crazy, exactly. Yeah. One parting last question. I want to ask you, what are the most important environmental changes that families can do today in order to build everything what you said, the resilience and also to protect attention for the kids, sleep and all these important things that are so, there are factors that they lead to a good growth of our kids.
I say if there's one thing to take away from ever hearing me speak, and you can forget everything else, it is no screens in the bedroom. Mm-hmm. Please, that is the hill I will die on. Like 90% of all the bad stuff that happens to kids that results in them having anxiety, depression, low self-worth, self-harm, exposure to inappropriate contact happens with small screens in the bedroom. Mm-hmm. And in the area that we are in, Cascais, Sintra, Lisbon, my colleagues are over requested. There are wait lists here happening now because of these things. It is very, very harmful. Do not let your child have a screen in the bedroom. And if that's the one thing that you put your foot on the ground, I think everything else can be mitigated in a way.
I love that. We don't have Wi-Fi on the upper floor of the bedrooms.
Very good.
Which should happen by, it was a mistake and then I didn't fix the Wi-Fi. And also I got them like 2 flip phones, Nokia flip phones after one of the talks.
Really?
Yeah.
That makes me so happy.
I wanted to get the pink ones, but they didn't have, so they have like a black Nokia.
Yeah.
Cynthia, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Any parting words, something else that you would like to add? Something, that I didn't ask you and you really wanted to talk about?
No, just, be compassionate, watch your own actions and interactions with the devices, and connect with people.
Amazing. Thank you so much.
Thank you.